Hare Krishna, bro.
Then
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just
Mata.
now I sent a message in WhatsApp.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mata. Deepika
Hare
Mata.
Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Pravina Matri, Hare Krishna. I'm thinking who is remaining. Who is Realme 5 Pro? Hare Krishna. Who is Shiva?
Shiva is my friend, bro.
Okay. And Anu Prabhu is also your friend.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing one Realme 5 Pro.
I asked one of my relatives also to join. Maybe he joined.
What's his name?
One second, if he's.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll start sharing presentation so we can begin.
Actually, it's he. Her name is Sai.
Her name is? We are continuing chapter 2, second part. Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathamritam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Nitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Mukhom Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langaite Giri Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Guru Tinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Devashish Prabhu Hare Krishna. Okay. So we are beginning second chapter. Those who are joining for the first time, thank you very much for joining. We are doing systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. We started with second chapter. Last week we did the first part of second chapter. Each chapter is divided into a certain themes just to help us understand the main content of the chapter. So we have acronym for each chapter. For the second chapter is actually the summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. And the acronym for this chapter is GITA, Gita. And G stood for Guru. We need spiritual master who can guide us and pave our way to spiritual perfection. Then I stands for identity, and Guru gave the first identity that we are not the material products. We are not product of this material world. We are spiritual beings um, in different bodies. Um, so this is the identity that Guru gives. So this is something that we discussed last week. And T stands for two duties, and then A stands for Atmaram. So we discussed these two sections today. Okay, now dharma. Um, Two duties. Duties also, I'm referring to dharma as duties. So there is worldly dharma and there is spiritual dharma. Worldly dharma is based on varna and ashram. As we saw, the total it covers from verse 31 to 51, and Krishna described in the first 9 verses worldly dharma, and next 11 verses spiritual dharma. Worldly dharma is based on our varna and ashram. Now, we all have heard about Varna ashram. So, Varna is like, as a Brahmana, I may have a duty. As a Kshatriya, I may have a duty. As a Vaishya, I may have a duty. As a Shudra, I may have some duties. So, we all have certain Varna prominent in us. Based on that, we have duties. Like Arjun, being a Kshatriya, he has duties to fight. That's his duty according to Varna. And then we are in one of the four ashrams, brahmacharya ashram, grihast ashram, vanaprasthasam, sannyas ashram. So based on our ashram, we have certain duties. So in grihast ashram, as a brahmana, certain duties. These are worldly dharma. Spiritual dharma, now this is brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra, and brahmachari, grihast, vanaprasth, sannyas. Spiritual dharma, there are two kinds. One is devotional service through worldly dharma, another is direct devotional service. Now, Bhagavad Gita teaches us to be spiritual at all times. Now, how can we be spiritual at all times? We should have some direct devotional service, which is like a certain part of our day for certain time should go in direct devotional service. Direct devotional service is hearing about the Lord, Krishna Katha, and then chanting the Lord's names. In our culture, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So some part of the day should go in direct devotional service. But because of our Varna and Ashram, we cannot do direct devotional service whole day. Direct devotional service is um, um, is more powerful than devotional service through worldly dharma. And direct devotional service is what will give us the opportunity to make our worldly dharma into spiritual. And how do we make our how do we render devotional service through worldly dharma? Like suppose if we are in grahasthashram, then if we are cooking, if we offer the food to Krishna, then that becomes favorable to devotional service. Or we are taking care of kids and we can see them as part and parcel of Krishna. They don't belong to me, they belong to Krishna, but they are under my care. So that also becomes devotion service through worldly dharma. So the whole day activity, our job, um, taking care of families, everything should be spiritualized. That will make our life favorable to spiritual dharma or Sanatan dharma. They are synonymous. Spiritual dharma, Sanatan dharma. Sanatan dharma, Sanatan means eternal. So eternal dharma is eternal duty of the soul. That is Sanatan dharma. Now what is the eternal duty of the soul? That depends upon who we are. So Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. The living entity Jiva Swarup is Krishnera Nitya Das, eternal servant of Krishna. So based on that, there is eternal dharma. So for example, if we are in Grahasth ashram, then we have dharma to spouse and kids based on our ashram. Then that's our duty. But eternal dharma is based on who we actually are. And because we are part and parcel of Krishna, Sanatan dharma is devotional service to Krishna. So some part of the day should be direct devotional service, and the rest of the day whatever we do in our 24 hours can be dedicated to Krishna service in some form or the other. and we can hear from devotees, we can hear Bhagavad Gita, and as we make spiritual progress, we will be able to clearly see how our worldly dharma can become favorable to our spiritual progress. Okay, any question up till now? Okay. Um, okay, someone can read this.
Yes, Prabhuji. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. And so there is no need for hesitation.
I'll read the purport of this verse. So here Krishna is discussing about worldly dharma. So he is telling, because you are Kshatriya, your duty is you have to fight on religious principle. That's your duty. Now give me a second. Let me open purport for this. Shamkrishna Prabhu, should I go out?
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Om Shankar Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
मैं एकदम से प्रभु जी भूल गया था, जस्ट अभी ध्यान आया।
Okay, thank you for joining. We are waiting for you. Can you see the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
We are on verse number 31. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principle, and so there is no need of hesitation. Okay, can someone read from here in the
In the
battle?
battlefield, a king or Kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving the heavenly planets after death. As the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battlefield on religious principles and killing animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be the acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. And the Kshatriyas killed on the battlefield also attained the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmanas, who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are two kinds of seva dharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of his particular body in accordance with the religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one Savadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, respectively. And such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, Swadharma is called Varna Rama Dharma, or man's stepping stone for the spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varna Sarma Rama Dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with the orders of higher authorities serves to elevate one to a higher status of life.
Okay. Any question based on what we read? In the meantime, I'll open the presentation again. Okay. So basically what it says is there are two duties, as Prabhupada explains. In the beginning, we may not be able to distinguish between varnashram dharma and spiritual dharma, but as we advance, it all becomes spiritual dharma, even varnashram dharma. So here Krishna is telling, because you are a Kshatriya, there is no better duty than fighting on religious principle, and so there is no need for hesitation. Okay, now Arjuna had this question: by killing, won't I go to hell? Can someone read this?
Yes, Prabhuji. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets.
So if you perform your duties, you make progress. And Arjuna was thinking, won't I go to hell by killing? This was one of the reasons given in first chapter, why he doesn't want to fight. And Krishna is telling, if you fight, um, it will open for you the door of heavenly planet. In other words, if he dies in the fighting, he'll go to heavenly planets. If he wins, he will get a kingdom. So it's a kind of win-win situation. Okay, can someone read this?
If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sin. I think there is echo, Prabhu, on my side. Later.
If you are speaking and if you have a mobile connected, it will create an echo. If you have only one device connected, it will be okay.
Prabhuji, can again?
Yeah, you are audible, Prabhu.
If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins of neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a.
So Krishna is he wants to run away, and he doesn't want to fight. And his conception is, if I fight, then because there is killing involved, I will incur sin. But Krishna is telling, actually, you are not going to incur sin by fighting, because as a Kshatriya, it's your duty to protect. There is no sin involved. Just like when there is uh, fight on a battlefield between different nations, the soldiers don't incur sin by fighting because they are under superior authority. It's their duty. They are policemen or whatever. So, but if you neglect your duty on the other hand, then you will incur sin. So Krishna kind of changed uh, mm, the thing that by not fighting you will incur sin. This is one thing. Another thing is, you will lose your reputation as a fighter. In other words, when we have a certain duty, if we neglect, we incur sin by neglecting our duties. And if we neglect our duty, people will criticize us for not performing our duty. Okay, someone can read this.
Shall
Do
I read
thou
it, Prabhu?
fight?
Okay.
Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin.
Now, this should be our consciousness while performing our duty, that it should be done without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. By so doing, we will not incur any sin. Whatever, like Arjun should fight not because he's he is going to win, he is going to gain victory or defeat. Means he will become the king, or he may lose life, or some happiness will come because he won. or distress will come because people in his side are killed or people in that side are killed. So without considering loss, gain, victory, defeat, happiness or distress, do your duty for the matter of doing your duty. And further Krishna says, actually do your duty for the pleasure of Krishna, then it's pure. But when we think of our comfort, gain, victory, defeat, it becomes impure, and then we incur sin also by doing that. Okay, can someone read this?
Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study, through analysis. Not listen as I explain it in terms of buddhi yajna. O son of Partha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works.
So far Krishna is described about performing your duty out of varnashram. He's telling because you are Kshatriya or you are in Grahastha ashram, you have certain duty, you should perform your duty. If you neglect your duty, you will incur sin. But if you perform your duty, you will gain heavenly planets. Then, if you neglect your duty, you will also become infamous because of neglecting. And now Krishna is telling that now I am going to explain to you in terms of Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga is used and as another term for Bhakti Yoga. So now Krishna is telling not just do your duty, um, not attached to results, but actually doing your duty for the pleasure of Krishna. Then it becomes Bhakti Yoga, and further verses are on spiritual dharma. Okay, someone can read this.
In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear.
So here Krishna is telling that if you perform Bhakti Yoga, then in this path there is no loss or diminution. Prabhupada writes in the purport that whatever advancement we make in our spiritual life, it's eternal. And he gives an example. If a person in this material world does a PhD, in his next life he cannot say I'm a PhD. He again has to start from LKG, UKG. But whatever advancement we make in our spiritual life, it's eternal, and it will protect us from most dangerous type of fear. Two things happen if we make spiritual advancement. Krishna mentions in sixth chapter. He said, first, next life will be human. Human birth is guaranteed, and if we attain perfection, pure love of God, we go back to Godhead. We escape the cycle of birth and death. If for some reason we cannot attain perfection, human birth is guaranteed. And another thing Krishna says is you began from where you left in your previous birth. In other words, if we make 20% advancement in Krishna service, then we began from 21%. And how do we do that? It will depend upon our attraction to the message of Bhagavad Gita, our attraction to Krishna consciousness. If we are 50% advanced, next birth, Krishna will make arrangements that we will come across devotees. And then we hear Kirtan, we hear Bhagavad Gita, and immediately our heart will be attracted. And that attraction is actually coming from previous life. See, 100 people can hear the same lecture. Some may be attracted a lot, some little bit, some may not be, some are not at all interested. It's all based on how much attraction they have in their previous life. And then we begin from there. So Srila Prabhupada said one time, once I met a devotee, Srinandana Prabhu, he's Srila Prabhupada disciple, and he told me, Shyamananda, this Kali Yuga is going to progress. This world is not going to get any better. So best for you is finish your business in this material world in this life. Now we are seeing so much fear because of existing health concern. Things are going to degrade. This is the nature of this material world. So one should take this opportunity to become sincere in his spiritual life and try to make this life your last life. One example which is given is of Maharaj Bharat. He was on a very advanced spiritual state. He was the king of the world. He went to the um, he was a family man ruling the kingdom. He wanted to devote full time in the service of the Lord. So he went to Himalayas. Um, he started performing intense service to the Lord. And then somehow or other, he became attached to a deer. And he was one day he could not see the deer. He would bathe with the deer, sleep with the deer. He would do everything with the deer. He would bring the food for the deer. He would give protection to the deer. When deer was not around, he would think, is the deer eaten by a lion? He was so conscious of the deer. Is the deer hungry? Is the deer in pain? Is the deer unable to find the path back? And one day the deer didn't come back for a long time, and he became very anxious. He became very restless, so much conscious of the deer. And he started searching. He could not find a deer. And while he was running, he was very tired. By mistake, he fell from a cliff, and he fell down, and he was about to leave the body. And while he was leaving the body, he was thinking, where is the deer? Is the deer safe? And because this was his thought at the time of death, he got a body of a deer in the next life. But as Krishna says here, in this path, there is no loss or diminution. Um, then, um, um, because he was very advanced in his previous life, Krishna gave him, by Krishna's mercy, he could remember, I was the king in my previous life. And he went to the ashram where Hari Katha was going on. And he heard Hari Katha, and he was attracted in the form of a deer. Every day, day and night, he would hear Hari Katha in association of the sages. And very soon, he was very austere as a deer. He would eat only dry leaves. And he gave up the body as a deer. And then he got another human birth. And from day one, he could remember, I was the king of the world, then I became a deer. Now I don't want to make any mistake. And that third life he perfected, and he went back home, back to Godhead. Many examples. See, if we don't invest our time today, at some point of time we need to invest our time in spiritual advancement. And the path is already mentioned by Gita through Bhagavad Gita and through the holy names. So one must be very intelligent and use his time wisely. We are investing time somewhere. We are doing something throughout the day. One must be very intelligent and do what is the real business of the soul. Do something what is most important. Okay, uh, can someone read this?
Yes, Purush. Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness. Even after the loss of the body, at least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness.
So it is said that if you are spiritual throughout your life, and you cannot finish your business in this life, then you are born in a family of a Brahmana, or a devotee's family. That birth is very rare. But if we are little Krishna conscious, then and we leave our body with lot of material desires, then we go to heavenly planets, we enjoy. Once our fruit is finished, we come back to the material world and we are born in a rich aristocracy, rich family. Still, we have little attraction towards Krishna consciousness based on whatever advancement we have made. Okay, what does it?
I have a question.
Okay,
Um, in the before slide, they said that if you have Krishna consciousness, then when you take your next birth, you take birth in a culture Brahmana family or a rich aristocratic family. So the people who are born as poor nowadays, so like it depends on the karma of their before, like the past birth or something.
yes. Now, uh, if someone is born rich, does
Mm-hmm.
not mean that they were devotees in the past life, but not great devotees. They perform little, not necessary. You will get a rich or poor birth based on our previous karma, our previous desires. Yet at the same time, some beginner devotees also get a rich birth, but does not mean every rich person is a beginner devotee in previous life. Is that okay? Otherwise, it's just karma works.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, what does a common man desire? Can someone
Prabhuji,
read this?
Prabhuji, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, there was some question in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I am not accessible to the chat because in my laptop screen I only see the full screen presentation. So please ask me. Thank you for stopping me. Yes, Prabhu, what is the question?
This question is from Manchi Prabhu. He's saying Muslim, Christian, Hindu. I did not find any difference. If we don't follow Krishna, what will happen? Prabhuji, Manchi Prabhu, could you please?
Okay, yeah, Srinivas Prabhu. So the question is Christian, Muslim, Hindu. I do not find any difference, and that is true at one level. So um, these are all mentioned in Bhavishya Puran, where the name of Masiha also mentioned and the name of Muhammad Prophet also mentioned. So either the Supreme Lord Krishna personally comes to give spiritual knowledge, or the Lord comes and the Lord sent some of his representatives, but the teachings given by the Lord representatives are based on the consciousness of the people in that particular time. Like we were discussing this yesterday also with some group of devotees. When Jesus Christ came, he gave the people to whom he was teaching God consciousness were very low in their consciousness. Um, because he was spreading the message of God consciousness, he was crucified. I mean, today if you go out and tell about surrender to the Supreme Lord, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Nobody will kill us. At max, even if they're atheists, they may say, Sir, I am not interested. At max. But that time, because he was propagating God consciousness, they hanged him on a cross based on nails. They put the nails on his forehead. I mean, imagine someone taking a hammer and nailing us down on our hands and forehead and legs. That was the consciousness of people. And Jesus Christ himself said, I have lot to say, but you guys are not ready. And he gave the whole teaching um, he gave the whole teaching in a very childish form. Like you see the biblical stories. One day God said, "Let there be earth." Earth was created. Next day the God said, "Let there be sky." Sky was created. Third day the God said, "Let there be human beings." Human beings are created. Fourth day the God said, "Let there be day and night," and day and night are created. So it's like you tell a child A for apple, B for ball. So like that. And he gave a story of how he fell down, and he said there was a forbidden apple, and Eve inspired Adam, the snake inspired Eve, and then they ate an apple, and because of eating that apple they fall down. Krishna says in simple words, Ichha Dvesha Samuthena, because of desire and envy one falls down. But he is explaining in terms of an apple was there, and because of envy they ate an apple and they fall down. The teaching is the same, the essence is the same, but based on time-based circumstances. Likewise, Muhammad Prophet, um, um, he one of the statement he mentions is, "Thou shalt not have sex with your own mother and sister." Now, people in that age were so degraded that even that has to be taught. For Krishna, there is no need to tell Arjun. Krishna nowhere tells Arjuna, "Do not have sex with your mother or sister." No need. So, based on the consciousness of people, Jesus Christ or Muhammad Prophet or any of the culture never claimed themselves as God. They said, "I am Son of God, I am Messenger of God." But you see, Bhagavad Gita, the speaker is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the listener is a pure devotee, Arjun. That's why very pure knowledge could come out. And even Srimad Bhagavatam, the speaker is a liberated soul, Sukadev Goswami, and the listener is Parikshit Maharaj, who saw Krishna in the womb also. He was born from the womb of Uttara, and Ashwadhama released a Brahmastra to kill Parikshit Maharaj in the womb. Uttara approached Krishna, "My lord, you can take my life, but please save the child in the womb." And because of the heat of Brahmastra released by Ashwadhama, who was son of Dronacharya, the body of Parikshit Maharaj was burned in the womb, but because of prayers of Uttara, Krishna appeared, and Parikshit Maharaj in the womb saw Krishna, and Krishna gave him another body in the womb, and that's why the name Parikshit means one who is always looking, because he saw Krishna in the womb. He was throughout his life he was looking for that form of Krishna. So that much advanced was Parikshit Maharaj. And the listener also included Narad Muni, Ved Vyas, and other great sages who came from all over the universe to hear from Sukadev Goswami. So because the interaction in our scriptures were by such qualified speaker and the Supreme Lord himself and such qualified listener, such pure message came out. Another thing is also Christianity and Islam, their books have been changed many times. Like I somebody said more than 14 times the Bible has been changed since past 2000 years. But if you see, likewise Muhammad Prophet, but if you see, that's why in these religion, um, there is meat eating, there is illicit sex, there is intoxication, there is gambling, and it's okay because because of the propagation of Kali Yoga, people want to do what they want to do, and they don't really want to do what Krishna wants them to do because they have material desires. So they are changing the scripture. So they feel that we are God conscious, we are on the right path. That gives them a feeling of security. Yet they continue fulfilling their material desires. But Krishna consciousness is 100% pure. And Bhagavad Gita never changed over time. There are 700 versions of Bhagavad Gita. There may be different commentaries, but the same Sanskrit coming down 5000 years. You do not find another version. But in Christianity, you find this is baptism, this is Catholic, these are Mormons, and there are so many, and they all have their own version of Bible. Okay. Any question in this regard, or what is the next question?
Prabhuji, the next question is, who is Paramatma and how Krishna relates to Paramatma?
Prabhu, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, Prabhuji, the question is, who is Paramatma and how Krishna relates to Paramatma?
So, Prabhu, Paramatma is Atma is we, who is the spirit soul, and Paramatma is the super soul, who is actually residing in the heart of the living entity. So, when the living entity leaves the body, the soul, along with Paramatma and the subtle body, goes to another body. And Paramatma is the one who reminds us in our next life of our unfulfilled desires in our previous life. Paramatma does not interfere in our free will. But when we start rendering service to the Lord, Paramatma gives us the intelligence by how we can make progress. Like today, if you are asking this question, if you are discussing Bhagavad Gita, then Paramatma inspired you um, to let us discuss Bhagavad Gita. So because you have a sincere, you are rightly using your free will, Paramatma is inspiring. Paramatma is very neutral. Paramatma is Krishna's expansion. It is said there is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which says Vadanti tattva vidastatvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdati. The Supreme Lord is realized in three levels. The basic level is Brahman. God is everywhere. Is God Brahman? Yes. Is he everywhere? Yes. Gyanis perceive God as all pervading, all existing, everywhere. Correct. Then yogis. Yogis, they go to Himalaya, they do meditation, and they finally come to realization that the Lord is sitting in my heart. And then at the stage of samadhi, they can even see the form of Vishnu in their heart. So they realize Lord is sitting in my heart. That is Paramatma realization. And bhakti yogis, they uh, directly worship Krishna, who is Supreme Personality of Godhead, who resides in his own abode, performing his own pastimes, and they understand that Brahman and Paramatma are expanded from him, and they directly serve that Supreme Personality Krishna. And that's why Krishna says, um, Hriday Deshe Arjuna Tishtati. I am situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. At least 7 to 8 places, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that I am sitting in the heart of every living entity as the Super Soul. Does not mean that when he is sitting in our heart, he doesn't exist upstairs or in spiritual world. Because he is Supreme Lord, this is one of his energy, which is Paramatma energy. Okay. Any other question, Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji, these were the questions in the chat.
Okay, we continue. Can someone read this? Anyone has any question? Uh, because I may not be able to see the chat, you can stop me right there. It's interactive based. Okay, someone can read this.
Men of small
Men of
knowledge
small,
are. Yeah, please continue.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this.
So people who are of small knowledge, two things they do. One thing is their goal is sense gratification. How can I enjoy? How can I enjoy? How can I enjoy? They meditate on sense gratification and they use their material intelligence to make arrangements of how I can enjoy. They are known as small knowledge. Another thing they do is they desire opulent life. You ask people, what is the goal of your life? I want to become a big man. How big? Big. Big means I need a lot of wealth. That's what they desire. Another people, you ask them if when they have small knowledge, their goal is they are attached to certain sections of the Vedas, like you want knowledge worship Saraswati, you want a beautiful spouse versus worship Uma, you want strength worship Hanuman or sun god, and you want to remove obstacles worship Ganesh. So it's still material desires, but instead of using their material intelligence to fulfill material desire, they use Vedas. But the intention behind everything is simply sense gratification. So they are called men of small knowledge. Okay. Please stop me and ask question whenever you have. Otherwise, I continue. Can someone read this?
In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment,
and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place.
So here Krishna is telling who cannot perform bhakti yoga, who cannot make spiritual advancement. Those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, they cannot develop the determination to serve the Lord because we have limited mind space, we have limited consciousness. When the consciousness is too absorbed in sense gratification, we cannot think of our eternal relationship with Krishna and try to grow that relationship. One example is Duryodhana. He was too materially absorbed, I want to become the king. And he tried to poison Bhima, burn all the Pandavas. He wanted to see Draupadi without clothes because he was so much eager for sense gratification in the name of material opulence and other material desires. He could never think who is Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord, who I am, what am I doing, what am I going to get in my next life, is this the right thing to do? He could not think anything, so their intelligence becomes lost. So these people cannot really perform Sanatan Dharma or Bhakti Yoga. So this is a prerequisite for Sanatan Dharma. Can someone read this?
O Dhananjay, keep all abominable activities for distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender into the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers.
Keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service. Now, this is a prerequisite. There are four abominable activities. One is violence, uh, eating animals. Now, like somebody showed me this video of wet market in Wuhan, China, and they showed me that how they are burning live snakes and all these scorpions and all these rats and how they were treating and because they are doing these things, their brain has become so used to it that they're not seeing there is anything wrong in it. But when a person who is trying to advance spiritually sees that, he will think, why? So heart becomes very hard, and when the heart becomes hard, it cannot express the humbleness with which one can offer devotion to the Supreme Lord. So these are abominable activities: violence, cruelty, then intoxication, then illicit sex, or trying to enjoy outside marriage, or gambling. So when one performs devotional service, he should perform these sinful activities away by the strength, and if he feels tempted, he should surrender to the Lord and ask for strength to not be able to engage in these sinful activities. And you see this picture, this Prabhu and Mataji and kid, they are so happy serving the Lord. That's our goal. Results of Sanatan Dharma. Can someone read this?
A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is art of all work.
So if we engage in devotional service, we become rid of good and bad reaction. Now, whatever suffering that comes in our life is actually because of bad karma. And if we perform devotional service, then we get rid of our bad karma. That's why we see that people who practice spiritual life, they become relatively happy in this world because they are it does not mean that they don't have a past. It is said that every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. Every saint has a past means he may have done lot of sinful activities in the past before coming to Krishna consciousness. But when he comes, he does two things. Two things happen. One, he becomes self-realized. so he does not commit sinful activities again, like we saw previous verse. He keeps the abominable activities far distant from him. In the beginning, he may not have courage, but as he keep rendering devotional service, he gains so much strength that he no more engages in sinful activities. Like recently, I was discussing with a devotee, and this Prabhu, he is father of two kids, um, and they are relatively grown-up kids. And he told me that Prabhu, um, I'm really enjoying devotional service these days. Manika, congratulations. And he said something that I like, something that gave me so much strength is I was doing certain activities which I wanted to give up. I knew that they are wrong things to do. I wanted to give them up, but somehow I was never able to do it. But now, somehow, I could give up my bad habits. Manika, great. And then I asked him, what were those bad habits? He was saying, I was watching certain videos and I always want to give them up, but now I got the strength. So, what happens? There may be lot of bad karma because of bad previous impressions, because of which we may be forced to commit sinful activities. But as a person take up devotional service, he should keep all sinful activities away on the strength of devotional service. Devotional service will give you strength. Maybe in first few months you may not have enough strength, but then you become powerful. Powerful means you can keep all abominable activities away. Another thing that happened, we don't know, we may have done so many wrong things in this life. What to speak about what all abominable activities we performed in the previous life? And that's why so many problems in life. But we see every saint, he may have a past, but because he take up devotional service, he becomes relatively happy. He does not face so many problems. Why? Because he is performing devotional service, because of which he can burn his previous reaction. Just like a spiritual master, it is said, when a spiritual master initiates a disciple, the spiritual master take all the karma of the disciple. But the spiritual master does not suffer for taking karma, but he can, because of the strength and purity of his devotional service, he can burn the karma of millions of lifetimes of the disciple, and he at once makes the disciple free, and the disciple can very freely engage in devotional service. The reason devotional service sometimes becomes so difficult to perform is actually because of bad karma. Because of bad karma, so many desires, because of previous impressions, and in such, with such desires, sometimes it becomes difficult because mind gives so much trouble to chant the holy name, to make progress because of so many previous impressions. But like I remember when I began chanting the holy names in the beginning, I faced a lot of difficulties to chant actually. First 2 months I could enjoy chanting because of Krishna's mercy. Krishna gave an experience, and then it was so difficult for me to chant for almost a year. Then I don't know what happened. Suddenly, I at in that 1 year time phase, my chanting was up and down, and lot of struggle to make progress, and on the top, bad association. And people will ask me, why are you wasting your time? And I would think, yeah, what am I doing? Why am I doing? Because already I am not experiencing anything in my spiritual life, and on the top, bad association. But somehow I felt my only qualification that I could go, that I could make progress was I I did whatever devotees asked me to do, and I continued chanting the holy names, going to temple, associating with devotees in spite of turbulence in my life. And suddenly after some time, what happens, your previous impressions are nullified because of your um, um, your devotional service. I mean, nullified in a way that not that you don't have any more impressions, but they don't haunt you, like they don't disturb you so much, but they may be there in some part of the corner, and your devotional service don't stop by that, and it life becomes much easier. Is it all right? Can we go ahead?
Yes, Prabhu.
Can someone read this?
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
So Arjun, not only you will become free from the previous reactions, but all the sages in the past who have performed devotional service, they could also free themselves from their reaction. In other words, this is a proof of the result of Sanatana Dharma. The result of Sanatana Dharma, you become happy, you become free from sinful reactions. And the proof is anybody in the past who has performed devotional service could free themselves from the result of work or from karma in the material world. Now, um, just like you say, anybody who goes to IIT, just like you say, if you go to IIT, you will get a job. I mean, nowadays, even people there are not getting job. Just an example. If you go to IIT, you will get a job. It's a disclaimer. And then you say, anybody who went to IIT in the past, they could get a job. That substantiate that if you go, you will also get a job. Of course, this is a material example. Something similar Krishna is telling. Anybody who engage in the service of the Lord could become free from their previous reaction and could become free from cycle of birth and death and all miseries and went back home, back to Godhead. And this very beautiful example is of Narad Muni. He was a musician, a Gandharva, and one time he was in the assembly of Brahma amidst so many demigods, and he sang a song which is other than something that glorifies Vishnu, some 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 mundane song, and his intention was he wanted to please some of the celestial ladies in the assembly. Because of this behavior, the sages became very upset with Narad Muni. He was a Gandharva. His name was not Narad Muni that time, and they cursed him that you become a Shudra Putra, a son of a Shudra. And then he came on an earthly planet in the next birth, and he was son of a maid servant. You know that Ayaji, Taiji, he used to do this. His mother used to clean the pots in different homes, and jhadu pocha and cleaning the toilets. So she used to go to different homes in India. That culture is still there. So he was son of uh, a Shudra, a Shudra, and he didn't have a father. But then what happened? By his great fortune, four Bhakti Vedantists or four devotees. Usually devotees they travel throughout the year, but during the 4 month of Chaturmas, during the 4 month of rainy season, they go at one place and they stay. They don't travel. So they happen to cross this village, and they happen to take shelter in the home of Narad Muni's mother. Just the child and the mother, and they stayed there for 4 months, and every day they would discuss Harikatha. Narad Muni would serve them prasadam, wash their plates, wash their clothes, and will do so many services to the sages, and he will hear Harikatha. And because of serving the sages and hearing Harikatha, he became free from all previous impressions, from all the previous lives, and he became self-realized to the extent he saw Vishnu in his heart. and he heard the voice of Vishnu also. And then in the next birth, he became Narad Muni, at a transcendental sage. So we may be contaminated today. We may have so many desires. We may have done so many wrong things in the past. But if we take shelter of the process of devotional service, and if we associate with devotees, associate with Bhagavad Gita, associate with the processes, different process of devotional service, we can also perfect our life and um, go beyond the cycle of birth and death. And we'll not be the first one. Anybody who has done this in the past could break the cycle of birth and death. So if we do that and follow their footsteps, we'll also be able to cross over the cycle of birth and death. Okay, so spirituality, a way of life. Gita teaches us to be spiritual at all times. Worldly dharma, fulfill your material duties. Spiritual dharma, remember your ultimate goal. And Bhagavad Gita actually teaches us to be spiritual. Continue doing according to your varna and ashram and dedicate it to the Lord. At the same time, a part of time, do direct devotional service of hearing and chanting. Just by our discussing Bhagavad Gita, it's a direct devotional service. It's not a service of varna and ashram. It's a direct devotional service. Okay, now we come to the last section of today. It's a short section. It's called Atmaram. Atmaram means as you perform this, you become self-satisfied. And you see how happy Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees. Okay, someone can read this?
Yes, bro. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone,
So
then,
here, go ahead.
then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
So here we see an example of Haridas Thakur. He would chant 192 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, and he was being approached by a prostitute who was supremely beautiful, and Haridas Thakur was not at all disturbed. On the other hand, this prostitute became a sage, and Haridas Thakur initiated her, and she cut off her hairs, and she would sit in the cave of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur left, and she would chant 192 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. She would chant 24 hours. So this is something that Haridas Thakur could give. So here Krishna is telling a man who gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification which arise from mental concoction. Mental concoction because we have certain bad impressions, mental impressions in the past of where we enjoyed some kind of mental, physical, or sensual happiness, and it's all it's all mental happiness. In mental happiness, because the happiness is only in the thought process that if I could fulfill these desires, I'll be happy. But those who have fulfilled those desires, they don't seem to be happy. Then another desire take over, and then they think, okay, right now I'm not happy. If I fulfill them, I'll be happy. So these are all mental concoction. So a person who is Prahlad Maharaj says in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you want to be happy in this world, stop trying to be happy. Have faith. We can never become really happy in the material world. Tell me what thing can give happiness. Any anything which we think can give us happiness. There are some people who have those things. Those who have it, they are not happy. Then how can we be convinced that if I attain that I'll be happy? Um, lot can be said, but we go ahead. And this is a um, 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 short chart. Difference between material happiness and spiritual happiness. Material happiness is temporary and short-lived. Spiritual happiness is eternal. Material happiness is nectar in the beginning, poison in the end. Reduces with time. Any material happiness starts with infatuation, then excitement, and then normal, and then boring, and then disgusting. So it starts with nectar in the beginning, it becomes poisonous in the end. Reduces over a period of time. Spiritual happiness ever increasing. Material happiness incriminates us to this matter, makes us take birth again, and makes us fulfill the desires of our previous birth. Spiritual happiness liberates us. Material happiness satisfies the mind and senses only. Spiritual happiness satisfies the soul. When the soul is satisfied, the mind and senses becomes inert. Inert means they are compared to snakes whose um, poisonous fangs. The snake have this poisonous fang under their hood. So when they are removed, the snake become harmless. Likewise, when the soul is happy, then although the senses exist, they still get all the information. They don't disturb us anymore. They are like snakes without poison. They become harmless. Then material happiness depends upon material circumstances. Sometimes we enjoy, many times we suffer. But we are so dependent upon when I can enjoy. But spiritual happiness is intrinsic to the soul. When you discuss Hari Katha, you can enjoy. You chant the holy name, you can enjoy. You associate with devotees, you can enjoy. So anytime you can enjoy. Makes one Material happiness makes one servant of the senses. Godas. Spiritual happiness makes one master of the senses. Goswami. It is very easy, like my spiritual master says, it is very easy to become the army in chief and rule 100,000 soldiers, but it is very difficult to rule the five senses and the mind. So the real Swami, the real winner is one who can control the mind and senses. They are very difficult to be controlled, but they cannot be controlled artificially, but they can be controlled by devotion. When our consciousness is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then they become satisfied. Fish out of water can never be happy, and fish in water is a natural state of the fish. Likewise, Jivara Sarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. When we are engaged in the service of the Lord, it's our natural true state to be in, and that's when we find our complete happiness. Okay, then what is the way to deal with material happiness and distress? Can someone read this?
In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
So, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, he is fixed in knowledge. Means he he gets an opportunity to enjoy. He is fixed in his service to the Lord, or he is in a very difficult situation and has lot of difficulties. He is fixed in his service to the Lord. So he continues his service to the Lord as a main principle, and whatever happens in the material world, he go through different phases, and that's all. That person is fixed in knowledge. Okay, how to make this transition? Can someone read this?
Though the embodied soul may be restricted from the sense enjoyment, the taste of sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness.
So how do we make that transition? Not that if we make spiritual advancement, we lose all the taste for sense object. Yes, it does happen, but when we become pure devotees, very advanced platform. But in our practicing stages, we may still have taste for sense enjoyment, but when one is experiencing a higher taste of Bhakti Ras, nectar of devotion, the Bhakti Ras. When he's experiencing that, which then he first of all he thinks Manyate Nadikam Tata means I have tried all kind of enjoyment in the past, but none of them is giving me as much satisfaction as Bhakti Ras. So he becomes attached to higher taste. He knows this is the highest. And then although he may have attachment to other sense object, he purposefully avoid those object of the senses because he knows the moment he engages in the lower objects, he will lose the higher taste, and he is afraid of losing higher taste. So that's what Krishna says, that person is fixed in consciousness. I read it again. Though the embodied soul means who is in a body, anyone, the soul residing in a body, who has a body. So though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, he is not engaging in sense enjoyment, the taste for sense object remains. He has attraction towards material sense objects, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Just like sometime we give an example, um, if you are nice prasadam, you can come to our temple. Every day you will get rasgullas and gulab jamuns and burfis and many other things. But you have to be careful about your health. So if you have an option of burfi only, then you will eat burfi. But if you are given rasgullas and gulab jamuns, then if you don't eat burfi, you're okay with it. So that's like a higher taste. You have something better, you can give us something lower. How strong are the senses? Okay, someone can, yeah.
The senses are so strong and impetuous, Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them.
They are very strong and impetuous. Even a person who is walking on the path of self-realization finds it very difficult to overcome the demands of mind and senses. Who is having the discrimination power, he or she also loses the discrimination power. So strong are the mind and senses. Okay, someone can read this.
Can we read, Prabhu?
Yeah, please.
While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises.
So when we contemplate on the object of the senses, attachment develops. From that attachment, lust, and when the lust is unfulfilled, anger arises. As you see in the picture on the top, this boy is contemplating on this girl walking by, and attachment develops, lust develops, and then when he was not able to fulfill his desire, there is anger and fight and war and so many things. But it all starts with contemplation. The more we think about the object of the senses, we are simply becoming more and more attracted. Even if we are criticizing object of the senses too much, because in the process of criticizing we are contemplating on that object, it will still develop attachment. Like example is, you see uh, a ad, it says Pepsodent, and then you see that ad again and again and again and again and again. I think that toothpaste is no more, bro. But that ad is still there in my mind because so many times I would see that. And then when you go to Indian store, then in India all stores are Indian stores only. Then you buy Pepsodent. Why? You have contemplated. There is a this whole industry of this whole industry ad industry is billion-dollar industry. Why? Because of this billboards and everything, just so that you contemplate, 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 contemplate. Okay, I'm going forward. Any question? Please stop me. How senses trap us? Object of the senses, we contemplate, attachment develops, attachment turns into lust, unfulfilled lust, anger arises. Anger results in delusion, bewilderment of memory, loss of intelligence, and resulting in fall down. With anger, we lose the discrimination power of what is right and what is wrong, and then we do things which are not right, and that leads to fall down. So, fall down happens when we contemplate on the object of the senses. So Prabhupada said one has to be very strict with his mind, and whenever the mind is contemplating, inside within your heart, you start chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and bring your contemplation back on the holy name, and be very careful and watchful with the mind and what it is contemplating on, because it's very easy. As now, any object of sense gratification you associate again and again, you are knowingly, unknowingly contemplating on it. And the more you contemplate, the life becomes more and more difficult. So, till we are 100% Krishna conscious, mistakes may happen. That's why there is an example given that when a lion is like, you know how the hunter catches a lion, he catches a lion and he put him in a jail, and he he beat him up, and he give him some food, and if the lion shows some sign of anger, then he makes the lion fast for a month. Then he gives some food, and whenever the lion shows some symptoms of anger, he makes the lion fast, and he does it over and over for years, to such an extent that this lion knows, and then he becomes so trained that when he comes out on a circus, the lion does not harm anymore. He's like kind of trained. So but the hunter is very careful with the lion 24 hours. There was one situation where it was a circus, and the lion came on the circus, and the lion ate the man alive. So anytime the lion can become ferocious. So the mind, one has to be very careful like a hunter, and whenever the mind goes away and contemplate on the object of the senses, a devotee should immediately understand this will lead to my fall down, and he starts contemplating on Krishna. That's vigilance. A devotee needs to be very vigilant. Okay. Peace and happiness formula. Almost, I think 2-3 verses. We have come to the end. Someone can read this. We have 9 more minutes.
One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
So only solution is connect with the Supreme. Anyone who is not connected to Supreme cannot have a transcendental intelligence or a steady mind. And where is the possibility of peace? How can there be any happiness without peace? So many people who come to temple, if you do a survey, some devotees did that. What makes you come to the temple? What makes you engage in spiritual activity? Most of the time, the answer is थोड़ा शांति मिलता है, peace of mind. I feel good about it. I feel happy when I come to temple. Uh, but if you want a continuous state of peace and happiness, connect with the Supreme. And the best way to connect with Supreme is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. See, in this age, we cannot meditate on the Lord. if you try to meditate on the Lord, your meditation will break in few seconds and mind will go all over the universe, and you will not even realize when mind left you. In Satya Yoga, you can actually meditate on the Lord. In this yoga, the mind is so fickle. So, one thing which is recommended in scriptures in this age to give you the deepest meditation on the Lord and to help you make maximum progress is continuous chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. So when you are chanting, even if your mind is blank, just because the mantra is going on, you are meditating on Krishna. And if you are sincere in your chanting, after chanting few mantras, the picture or the deity of the Lord which you connect the most will appear in front of you. But even if it doesn't appear, just by chanting this mantra, you are with Krishna, and that will help you gain happiness and peace in this age. Okay, how to deal with desires. I think this is the last verse. Can someone read this?
A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires.
So there are so many rivers that are continuously entering into the ocean, and but because the ocean is so deep, the ocean is not agitated by merging of so many rivers into the ocean. Likewise, when we go deep in our own spiritual practice, then although the mind may bring so many desires to enjoy, when we go deep in our sadhana, those desires don't agitate us, and we don't like uh, like a spiritual person don't try to satisfy all the desire that mind produces. The mind by nature is fickle. It produces, somebody said, I don't have any proof on that, no shastric reference also. Somebody said every day a man gets 60,000 thoughts, and some of the thoughts that he meditates becomes strong desires. Some just come and go. But if a person who is not disturbed by any of the desire mind is presenting, and remains deep like an ocean, he attains perfection. Okay, there is a small video on this behalf, and we end with this.
I remember once I was sitting here on the bank of the river Ganga, and up above me I looked into a cloudless sky, and soaring was a hawk. Its feathers of brown, gold, red seemed to be illuminated by the sun, circling lower and lower and lower until it was just a few meters above my head. I looked up at this hawk and saw its yellow eyes intensely gazing into the river, looking for something. Suddenly, the hawk dove headfirst right into the river Ganga. Then there was a skirmish. There was splashing, and the hawk was underwater mainly. And a few seconds later, came out with a flapping fish his claws. The fish was struggling and squirming its life as the hawk flew into the forest out of sight. But that fish was just swimming along like any other day. With its friends, its family, looking for food, having fun, swishing around. Didn't expect anything dramatic to happen. But suddenly, that fish was ripped right out of its reality. Away from everything it identified with. It's about to die. And isn't that situation potentially for everyone? We just go upon our lives like any other day, and the hawk of fate strikes. There's a death in the family, there's a traumatic experience, disease, or death itself. Perhaps I was thinking at that time, the lesson is we should not be complacent. We should take the opportunities we have in our spiritual life very, very seriously. One of the greatest enemies for a yogi is procrastination. We just get into the groove of our lives and we put the most important things off for another day. We do not know that this yellow-eyed hawk of fate may come for us at any moment. But then there was another lesson. That if that fish was swimming deeper, the hawk couldn't touch it. In the same way, if we go deeper into our spiritual practices, deeper into our meditation, our satsang, our kirtan, absorb our minds to that deeper place within our heart where there is real fulfillment. And whatever situation may come upon us in this world, it cannot really affect us.
All right, so I'll wait for 2 minutes and see if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we'll end today's discussion.
Prabhuji, could you please share the link for this video? Because I was not able to hear it clearly.
Oh, you're not able to hear clearly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think somehow today your network is showing yellow, Prabhu. Maybe the signal is a little weak, something.
Can you hear everything I said or no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
was
think
audible. Video was little bit with pause. It was running.
But the audio was clear.
I mean, I'm trying to think for video only. I miss whatever video audio and last one which you played.
Okay, I will send it, Prabhu. It's on YouTube. I'll send to Srisha Mataji and Singh can send in the group.
Then
Hari. So, all right. Very, very grateful to all of you for showing interest in going to this Gita systematic study. My request will be try to go through the entire Gita once and see how it has such a positive impact in our lives. And thank you very much. And I will also keep in personal touch with all of you. Maybe I was thinking soon I will meet you all, maybe one family a week, so that in 2-3 months I can discuss, have a personal talk with all of you, and very grateful. Thank you. We'll end here. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanand. Thank you. Vanchakal
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Vanchakalpatarubhesha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavendra ki jai.